at 19 years old. Northcutt was the very first prospect to be found on Dana White's looking for a fighter. The kid's 22 and the sky's the limit for Sage. He's a third-degree black belt in Taekwondo. His opponent, Zach Otto, is 3-2 since joining the UFC. He took out Mike Pyle in Mike Pyle's retirement fight. I definitely didn't want to see Mike Pyle go out like that, but it was a tremendous win for Zach Otto. It was a great win. Otto took his UFC debut on short notice also. Like I said, be ready when they make that call to you and you want to get in that octagon, get in there. No matter what weight class, no matter what it is, if you want to be on that roster and they give you that phone call and it's not a ridiculous question, they're not asking you to jump 2 or 3 weight classes. If it's 1 weight class up or 1 weight class down and it's only a 10-pound difference, and don't be scared. Get in there and do it. Otto's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so hopefully we can see a good fight there between him and Sage Northcutt. I definitely like to see it standing. Sage Northcutt is a great fighter on his feet, so I definitely don't want to see a whole lot of ground fighting on that one. I don't think we're going to get it. Zach Otto definitely likes to stay up and bang, so I think Sage Northcutt and him are going to bang it out. That didn't sound good, but you know what I mean. But that's going to be a good one. The main event for that card is 18-5 Junior Dos Santos versus 16-1 Blugby Ivanov. This is Ivanov's UFC debut. His only loss in his entire career is to current UFC heavyweight contender Alexander Volkov. That was on like a Bellator, like Ultimate Fighter type show. He is the former World Series of Fighting and PFL heavyweight champion. He won a gold medal in World Sambo Championships. This dude is no slouch. He's obviously no slouch, and the UFC recognized that. So when he came into the UFC for his very first fight, they're going to give him former UFC heavyweight champion, Junior Dos Santos. And JDS is no slouch. JDS obviously hasn't fought since he fought Stipe Miocic at UFC 211. JDS was expected to fight Francis Ngannou at 215, but was notified by USADA for a potential doping violation. On April 24th, JDS was cleared of intentionally using PEDs. That's one thing that is definitely the downfall of USADA, is these situations where you say a fighter did something, but he didn't. And then you just took away months of that fighter's career, possibly 1 to 2 fights, 2 paychecks. I mean, that's a lot of money, and these fighters aren't recuperating that money in any way. I'm pretty sure JDS didn't get paid for missing all this time, but he is going to get paid for this fight. It's a main event. Him and Ivanov are going to go at it, and it's going to be a great fight. It's definitely one to watch. So in 2 weeks, UFC Fight Night Hamburg, which is in Germany, is going to take place. I'm going to go over 3 of the popular fights on the card, I guess you could say. 28-10, Stefan Struve is going to go and take on 16-4, Marcin Tybura. Tybura is the number 8 heavyweight, and Struve is the number 12 heavyweight. Struve has an 84.5-inch reach. If you haven't seen this guy, he's huge. He's literally the tallest fighter in UFC ever. The tallest guy in the UFC has ever fought. He's lost his last 2 fights in a row. He lost to Arlovsky and Alexander Volkov. Volkov was in a main event fight night. His notable wins are over Bigfoot Silva, Minotaur Nogueira, and Stipe Miocic, which until last Sunday was the greatest heavyweight champion we've ever seen. He still is the greatest heavyweight champion ever seen, but he's still not the heavyweight champion right now. That is the champ, Danny Cormier. But like his opponent, Marcin Tybura has also lost 2 in a row. He lost to Derek Lewis and to Fabricio Verdum. So it's not like these guys have lost to slouches. They've lost to very good guys. Marcin Tybura is 3-3 since joining the UFC. He is the 2013 M1 Grand Prix heavyweight champion. Both these fighters need a win, so you could be expecting fireworks, because that's definitely what's going to happen. They're going to go ahead and go out there and swing for the fences because they need to. They both need a win. They're on 2-fight losing streaks. Obviously, one person's going to lose, though, and one person's going to win. I guarantee you, neither one of those two are going in there thinking that they're going to a 3rd round. That's just my opinion. 27-6, Glover Teixeira is also going to be fighting 10-4 Corey Anderson. That's going to be the co-main event. Glover Teixeira is the number 3 light heavyweight in the world, and Corey Anderson's the number 9 light heavyweight in the world. The fight was originally supposed to be Amir Latifi versus Glover Teixeira, and that was a fight that I was definitely looking forward to. I feel like Amir Latifi is going to be on a roll. He's been on a roll, and he's definitely a guy that we should all be looking at because he could be making a huge jump in the light heavyweight division as soon as Daniel Cormier retires at 40, which is, I believe, in March. But Amir Latifi had to pull out July 5th due to injury, and now we got Corey Anderson coming in. Glover is 10-4 since joining the UFC. Teixeira lost to John Jones for the light heavyweight title of UFC 172. It was a good fight for a minute, but then Jones just went ahead and took him out completely. Jones was on a roll at that time, and he might have been on some other things too. Glover has 16 career knockouts. He also has been knocked out twice. He's been knocked out by Rumble and Alexander Gustafsson, so it's not like he's been taken out by slouches. He's been taken out by some big light heavyweights. Rumble's probably the hardest hitting light heavyweight that there's ever been. Glover always has wars, and it's going to be a great fight. Corey Anderson is 7-2 since joining the UFC. Corey won the Ultimate Fighter 19. He's lost to John Vellante, Shogun, Jimmy Manawa, and OSP. He's won his last fight against Patrick Cummings at Fight Night Atlantic City. He dominated Patrick Cummings. It was a one-sided fucking slapping by Corey Anderson. It's going to be a good fight. Corey Anderson stepped up on what is this going to be, 3 weeks notice? Glover hasn't had a whole lot of time to sit here and think about what Corey Anderson's really bringing to the table. So I think Corey might go ahead and sneak and take this one away from Glover. The main event that night is going to be 25-10 Shogun Rua versus 29-13 Anthony Smith. The fight was supposed to originally be Volkan Ozdemir versus Shogun, but Volkan Ozdemir was pulled from the event to go ahead and fight Alexander Gustafsson at 227. And they say if Alexander Gustafsson pulls off a spectacular win, that he'll face DC. I honestly don't think it should take a spectacular win. I think any win in any fashion against a fighter like Volkan Ozdemir should get enough for him to have a good enough resume to fight DC for the light heavyweight title. If you ask me, I kind of think DC's a little scared to fight Alexander Gustafsson for the light heavyweight title. I really think that it was kind of a bitch move that he went ahead and said, well, maybe I'll fight Shogun. But anyways, back to the main event of UFC Hamburg. Shogun Rua versus Anthony Smith. Smith's second fight at light heavyweight. He beat Rashad Evans at UFC 225 in what would now be known as Rashad's last fight. He's 5-2 since joining the UFC. Smith's stepping in on 3 weeks' notice. Smith's move up to light heavyweight has really shown an upgrade in his power. And like a lot of people, like Daniel Cormier, for example, when they go to their more natural weight class and they're not draining their bodies to cut weight, they bring power with them. So like I've been saying forever, I think everyone should fight at their natural weight class. No more weight cutting. Probably take out a lot of weird injuries, like maybe what possibly went wrong with Max Holloway this weekend. Shogun is a former light heavyweight champion. He lost his title to John Jones at UFC 128. He's the former 2005 Pride middleweight Grand Prix champion. He's on a 3-fight win streak, which is why DC alluded to him possibly getting the next shot if he wins against Anthony Smith. Maybe he does get the next shot. I know DC said something about pay-per-view draws, and that was the biggest problem with Gus, is that he doesn't draw. And Shogun would bring Brazilian fans with him if he's fighting for the title. And you know the Brazilian fans go ahead and always go strong for their fighters. But that's going to take something spectacular from Shogun this week, 2 weeks, against Anthony Smith. But that's it for UFC Hamburg, and that's it for our show. This is our second episode of MMI. I want to thank you all for listening, and I appreciate every single one of you. You guys have a good evening, have a good day, whatever time it is. However you're doing this, if you're listening to it on your way home, or you're at the gym, or whatever you're doing, keep doing what you're doing. Appreciate you, and don't let anyone ever tell you differently.